What's up, guys? Happy Tuesday night. I'm Rob Whiteside. This is Deep in the Plus. Tonight we have a very special holiday edition. We're going to be talking about a Christmas movie. We've been doing it for a little while here, so we're very excited to talk about A Christmas Carol. And when I think holidays, I think the Ride Rehab folks. With me tonight, Tyler, Mann, and Thomas. How are you?
Hello, we're very well, thank you.
I thought you were going to say we think about Canada when we think about the holidays.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
like
pine trees, north, That's how Snow. We just got December 1st. December 1st came around, and snow hit us like that.
Yep.
It is still snowing outside right now. It's very light, but we've got
because of course.
Yeah, but it's still going, and we've got a thin layer of white garbage on the ground.
White garbage. Okay. So we're going to be talking about A Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey. We were talking about this a little bit before the show, and Tyler, you were like, I'm not really sure about Christmas.
Canadian. I got it now.
This could be a long show, isn't it?
Think about that.
It's going to be a long show. Yes. So anyway, we were talking about what's kind of a little bit weird in the world of Christmas and holiday movies, and this one is pretty weird. It's mocap. And so this was part of the Image Movers Digital Initiative, which was Robert Zemeckis. He wrote and directed this one. He did a whole bunch of other movies, including everybody's favorite Mars Needs Moms. And this one, that one was actually the end of Image Movers Digital and Disney's relationship. They were going to do another Roger Rabbit. They were going to do the Yellow Submarine. Good. They were going to do a whole bunch of things, and they were like, you know what? This is too creepy, right? It's like Uncanny Valley. It's motion capture with the artists, and then they make animation, and it almost looks too real. And I think that's kind of off-putting, don't you? Or is that what makes it funny?
So I think while that is thematically appropriate for something like A Christmas Carol, where it is technically, it's kind of a grounded story about the time Charles Dickens lived in, but we have these sort of larger-than-life characters of Scrooge and Bob Cratchit and all these characters. So the blending of CGI with very realistic, I don't want to say, I guess, animation and mocap face capturing stuff. That's all I think that's okay for that. That being said, yes, it is quite unsettling to see, and especially when you have the barest hints of who these actors could be, but you're not quite sure because they've got a layer of digital covering over their face.
For me, it's when you watch a movie like Food Fight, and they're these very cartoon characters, but then they're doing hand talk acting. And it's very clear, very clear that it's mocapped because it's this sort of restrained motion rather than being super expressive like you expect a lot of Disney animation stuff to look. And for me, it's that the face just looks a little bit weird, but then everything else looks so realistic, and plus the motion capture acting just. All of it combined. It's a multitude of different things.
I agree with you most. I think maybe it's the realistic faces that really break it for me.
So usually in Deep in the Plus we talk about the movie itself, but I think everybody knows this story, right? I mean, Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. It's been done 976,422 times, so everybody knows the story. We don't need to walk through who Ebenezer Scrooge is or anything like that for anybody.
Okay,
but I do want to talk about the animation a lot, some of the choices that they made, because I do think that this story is probably more true to the original book than any of them. And then also...
I was going to say that... I'll let you finish. Sorry, my bad.
Jump in, man.
I was going to say, I think that's one of the things that's quite an admirable quality about this film, is the how not just how close it is to the book. I think that probably out of all the adaptations I've seen, which admittedly are probably only 1/16 of them, or maybe even less. I've seen obviously everyone's seen the Muppet one. The Muppet one is
the best one.
The best one.
Agree.
I've definitely seen the black and white one at some point. I saw the one where Vincent Price reads it. I saw either a cheap Portuguese or Italian cartoon version of it. But this one is I think one of the most effective ones in terms of adapting the story, and particularly things from the novel or from the novella, whatever it is, into a proper film. However, there are these very distracting chase sequences which feel very out of place.
They are not chase sequences. They are motion simulator 3D D-box seat moving sequences.
Yeah. All right. So we'll get to that. Let's talk about the high end. Let's talk about the high end of this though, because we reviewed, Jill and I reviewed the Muppet Christmas Carol. You guys mentioned that. That's my favorite telling of it. Honestly, I don't love this story. So the fact that it's been done so many times is kind of hard for me. There are some that I love. I love the Muppet Christmas Carol. I love the music in that one from Paul Williams and Gonzo narrating as Charles Dickens, and just that it's Muppets and it's great. And then I love Scrooged. That one to me with Bill Murray is also, it's very funny, but it's the same thing. It's this whole thing with the three spirits, and they come and they visit him and they change his life and make him love Christmas. The end. Did Charles Dickens mean for that to be a Christmas movie? I don't know, because it's also kind of, to me, like the horror movie of the Christmas genre, right?
You said you didn't mean for it to be a Christmas thing. It's called A Christmas Carol. Every movie now has the word Christmas. A Christmas Prince, a Prince at Christmas. Like they're all within that vein of like everyone in this town.
But it's
loves Christmas.
But it's a redemption story more than it's a Christmas story, right?
That's what I was going to say.
Yes.
I think what Rob is trying to say, that it's become more synonymous with Christmas as opposed to the original, like Die Hard, like the corporate idea of Christmas, as opposed to any proper actual meaning Charles Dickens was trying to put into the novel. I'll agree with you there.
Holiday, it's the same story. It's just like, hooray, it's Halloween. I hate Halloween, but Father, Halloween is lovely. It's a time for family.
I guarantee you, there is a Halloween, like some cheap Halloween movie. A Halloween Carol about some guy who's like, I hate Halloween, and then the three spirits of Halloween, past, present, and future, visit him.
Isn't that?
But there are innumerable stories that take this exact same format of the three spirits visiting and just put a different spin on it.
Isn't that what
the
David
Ghosts
Pumpkins
of Girlfriend
was?
Past.
Isn't that what David Pumpkins?
No, because we didn't have.
He was like trying to get the kid to care about Halloween for his sister.
But all right, fair. We have them trying to get them to care about the holiday, which is not the important thing. That's the takeaway that a lot of people think they get from this story, is that, you're supposed to love Christmas. No, Scrooge was a misanthrope who hated his fellow man.
He hated everyone.
He hated everyone, and he loved money more than he liked people. And so, but in the end, he has an existential crisis or a transcendental experience that causes him to realize that humanity is the true gift, and that he needs to live his life in a way where he's going to be remembered as a good person, and not a horrible old miser who starved his family's children, or starved his employees' children to death.
Is it also implied that maybe he was going to die, like, literally the next day unless he changed his ways? And he's like, whoa, okay, you know what? I see my grave now. I get it. I will stop.
The implication is that he will die on Christmas, but which Christmas is it?
It could be this one.
It could be this one, because it is the Christmases yet to come. But
let me run down a couple more, because I know this one I've seen and you guys haven't. Barbie's A Christmas Carol.
Oh, I love that.
Chef's Kiss. It's fantastic. There's a Patrick Stewart one where he plays Scrooge.
I have not seen that one, but I'm sure it's...
and then there is, this year, brand new, look it up, Hallmark Channel, a Nashville Christmas Carol. Where she's...
Nashville?
Yeah, it's a Nashville.
I don't think
look
we
it
can
up.
go to Nashville.
No.
I don't think...
Yeah,
I don't think we'd be welcome in Nashville. I'm not going to watch that movie.
Dude,
is that what the movie's about? The ghost of gay Christmas.
That'd be great.
The ghost of people of color Christmas, and the ghost of Democratic Christmas, and they come and change a hard-nosed Republican into a loving person.
All right, so wait, back up. I'm literally in Nashville right now. So
is this? Wait,
I'm just saying.
Dolly Parton one?
So like right up the street for me is the place where they filmed some of it. I mean, it's like legitimately a thing. So just saying.
Wow.
Anyway,
is this the Dolly Parton one with Christine Baranski?
No, is that a thing?
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a movie that's like, I'm Christine Baranski and I don't like anyone.
You see,
and then Dolly Parton shows up. She's like, I'm going to make your Christmas really awesome.
This one has a couple country music singers. Sarah Evans is in it, and also Winona Judd, which I'm sure you know neither of those people.
Oh.
She sang the music for Lilo and Stitch.
I was going to say, Winona Judd sounds familiar, and Sarah Evans, I have probably heard at least one song by her.
Yeah,
I'm from the suburbs, the country suburbs, so I got a little bit of that.
Gotcha. So anyway, there are a lot of tellings of this movie. So like I said earlier, I don't think we need to talk about that, but we definitely need to talk about the animation. I want to show a little bit of, and Tyler was like, when he logged in, he was like, "What is that on the screen?" I want to show a little bit of this if I can figure out where to do it here. So this is some like blended capture from the movie. It was a deleted scene, but it's a little bit of a blended thing. So you can see there. Yeah, there's Gary Oldman, and he played Bob Cratchit. And then you're going to see.
Does kind of look like him.
You're going to see Jim Carrey here in a second as himself with Scrooge's body. Very crudely done here. This is obviously not the final animation, but just so you can see how they put this together.
It doesn't even look like the same angles.
Well, that's the thing. They can motion capture it and then get whatever angle they want if they didn't have the... Oh, it's so weird.
Right?
It's this is like watching a Robert Rodriguez movie where like a character's body is animated, but the head is like a live-action character.
But I will say, obviously the idea of this was that you'd get, major name actors, and then you'd be able to capture the finer points of their performance and still have it go into animation.
Right, but I think the original goal was to use it as a guide, and instead what Image Movers Digital did was they basically used it as like just an animated version of the actor, and that's why all the faces of Jim Carrey plays all three spirits in this telling. And so he is all three spirits, and he is Ebenezer Scrooge in all of his ages. And so you're always seeing Jim Carrey's face, like, in the animation. And I think it's a little bit weird. I mean, not that I have anything against Jim Carrey, but it's just, it's very strange. So I'm going to... What?
I was going to say that plays into like I don't want to say like the secret ending or the secret story of A Christmas Carol, but you could argue that maybe what Scrooge is seeing is just uninternalized, I don't know, sensation or experience, and he's trying to I don't know, he finally gets hit by all these things suddenly, and he internalizes it as three spirits coming to visit him. And so if in this version of the film all the spirits have his face, then maybe it's just him. Maybe it's just him. But the point is, he still goes through that redemptive arc. Yeah.
So let me go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say two things that came up in the chat. One is I watch this version every year. Lauren said that, and Jordan S. says Jim Carrey is amazing. I don't disagree with either of those things. I think Jim Carrey is amazing. I think that what he's done recently with playing Joe Biden on SNL, I think that some of the early stuff that he had done, with The Mask and Ace Ventura is kind of like iconic. I think he did some really good stuff in Truman Show. He was obviously absolutely ridiculous in Dumb and Dumber. So I appreciate Jim Carrey, and especially as a stand-up comic early on before he started, I really do like him. I just think that like creepy animated version of Jim Carrey is a little bit like, it's a little off-putting for me. So again, if you enjoy this version of it, that's great. Like for me, I think any of this motion capture stuff, even Polar Express, which is a very endearing movie, some of those things and those expressions are just too accurate. And it's that uncanny valley thing, about animation.
Another great motion simulator.
The Christmas motion simulator, the Polar Express, which got its own video game.
But also these movies, like Cimex iWorks does take chunks of the movie and put it in motion simulator theaters.
Oh, do they really?
They sell it as they cut down 20 minutes or like 4.5 minutes, and then they call it Christmas Carol: The Ride 4D or whatever. They did that with Polar Express. They did with this. Obviously, Cinemax Iwerks does make their own custom movies, and we'll probably watch those on Red Red Watches at some point. But
and this was actually 3D and IMAX. This version of it was 3D, which again, kind of the flyover stuff that you guys wanted to talk about, which you can talk about anytime you're ready. I think I didn't like when I'm watching this. I had forgotten that it was 3D, and it makes a lot more sense when you watch it now that it was 3D, and that's why they did some of these effects.
There's a lot of the whole like, whoa, this is coming at the camera. Ooh, look at these. Oh, there's literally a scene where Gary Oldman starts walking towards the camera to show how 3D the background and such is. 3D. But yes, it has that feeling of those I don't want to say early 3D movies, but those mid 2000s 3D movies where they were still trying to push that effect.
It was like around the time of How to Train Your Dragon and Tintin.
Yeah.
Where proper like 3D or digital 3D was like the big thing, and that was the big push that's getting people to go to a movie theater.
Quick divergent. I just want to say Tintin is a good example of the blending of realistic sort of character looks with a stylized art style. Tintin, I think it's probably pretty boring. I don't remember watching it, but Tintin is a fine film. But we're not talking about Tintin. We're talking about
A Christmas Carol. But one of the animation things about it too is that like this is a beautiful movie. I mean, absolutely stunning. And when they open it up and you've got the book there, and they show the street scene and the snow, and they kind of pan down to the book sitting on a table. It looks so photorealistic. It is scary how good it looks, and it is very well done. The wax coming down the candle. So, like, a lot of care was taken in making this movie. But then, when they open up the book and you see it's like a sketch of Marley, and then they kind of move into the actual, like, CGI Marley, that's when, for me, it starts getting a little bit creepy. But again, the backgrounds are phenomenal.
The book opens with like a jump scare sound effect, like a violin sting, and this movie is horrifying.
Well,
yes,
we'll talk about that, I guess.
I'm sure we'll, as we go on, we'll talk about the animation, because I think that's too large a topic to
Okay, so let's go back to the scary. I made some notes. I'm sure you've got some too, but that opening was pretty scary. Obviously, it's creepy. What?
Yeah. Well, the original story is, as you said earlier, it's like the horror story of Christmas.
Yeah. It is a horror story. It's ghosts.
Yeah. But it was a story that Charles Dickens wrote for the purpose of scaring people, specifically rich old men who were contributing to society, or who were Dickens, because that's the social circle he swam in. I know I let it slip a little bit, but that was the social circle he swam in, and those were just the things he saw of his time. And so he said, well, these are the ghosts that are going to haunt the rich of my time. It wasn't meant to be a fun, happy story about a man who discovers the true meaning of Christmas. It's a story about a man who descends to the darkest parts of the human soul, a cautionary tale, and comes back changed anew.
A horror time travel adventure.
And with that, all of the ghosts in this, like even the middle ghost, the ghost of Christmas Present, who is actually like kind of like a fun, happy ghost, even he starts off kind of scary,
withers into a skeleton.
And at the end, is one of the most horrifying sequences where you watch him wither away.
And then he's like laughing while he's doing it. It's like the scariest bit.
Well, it's unsettling.
So we'll go through the spirits in a second. So because I think that's the thing, but the jump scare thing when Marley appears in general, there's a bunch of it. There's the door knocker.
Yeah.
There, when he fell, like any man his age would have cracked 82 ribs and broken 3 hips. So like that's like that fall is just wildly horrible. And then he falls on
back and he's okay.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. He's hobbling along, and then all of a sudden he's like, a gymnast. But when you go back to look at like that door knocker again, the animation with the flowing of the ghost is amazing. Then he gets upstairs,
yes,
and he's sitting in the chair, and then you've got like the doorknob slowly turning left and right and left and right, and then it stops.
The bells going by,
and the bells going
off.
So you've already been your like freak vibes have already been raised to the max with the 4 bells going off, the doorknob, and then there's a silence, and then he bursts through the door with his chains and his boxes, and it's like, okay, again, jump scare in a Christmas children's arguably movie.
Is it arguably for children though?
I would say that A Christmas Carol is for children.
A Disney animated movie, it has the word Disney on it, it's an animated movie. Yeah. In what world would you not expect children to come to that?
But I also think that it's very important to scare children. I think that children need to be deserve to be scared.
Alien encounter.
Regardless of what time it is, and they love it. That's the favorite game of children, is to be scared. What's the first thing you do with a baby?
Yeah.
Peekaboo!
Yeah.
Ah! A baby isn't laughing, they're screaming. And kids, they love being chased and things like that. They love being scared.
Goosebumps?
But A Christmas Carol teaches us an important lesson as well. The lesson that Christmas is not a thing that can be quantified by coins or coal. It's
about family. That's the most important.
It's not even about family. They don't even go that far. They just say it's about being good. It's about being able to.
This is an early pilot for The Good Place.
It's about being able to reconcile your past and look towards the future. I guess I don't know. It's very hard to pin down exactly what the novel is about or what the story means.
You take from it what you do.
Exactly, and you take from it whatever you got.
So I got a couple others on my like intense scene list. The ghost outside his room.
Yep.
When Marley goes out and he goes to look outside his room and he sees all of these ghosts out there, there's some terrifying stuff there too. They're all in shackles, and they're the ones that are like chained, earthly bound because of their chains and their, past indiscretions, obviously. And then they one flies in at him, and then comes in the first spirit. And, again, I want to talk about the spirits separately, but there's a scene at the end of the first spirit where he decides this spirit's getting on my nerves because he's shape-shifting his face, and it's really super creepy. And he goes, I'm getting so much on my nerves, I'm going to kill it. I'm just going to take this cone and just snuff it out. And it's just it
looks like a candle. So yeah, he's snuffing out the candle.
But I mean,
the candle of his youth.
There's a lot of pressure in him doing it, as if he's smothering somebody with a pillow. And so it's a very intimate kind of violence, if you will, that he's doing here. And so it's just really, it's scary stuff. And then after that, the scene where the ghost of Christmas Past says, look down, and he opens up his robes. Now, if you didn't see the scene and you hear me saying that, it sounds pretty inappropriate. He opens up his robes and says, no, look down, look. And it's, there's these creepy things. And then, like you said, he kind of, literally dies laughing. And that was weird. Never mind, just, again, how creepy that thing is. And then, of course, the Ghost of Christmas Future is always scary. It's always scary. Even in the Muppets, it was a very scary, daunting, usually silent villain. So,
the Ghost of Christmas Future is always silent. They are never in the book. He never speaks a word. Whatever. It never speaks a word, and it's silent because the future is silent. And of course, there is the theory that it is the specter of death. Looming over.
It's always portrayed as like a Grim Reaper. Essentially,
it appears to be like a Grim Reaper, and it appears to be very death-like. But at no point do they ever address it as death, and at no point does Charles Dickens say for sure this is death. But that's what the implication kind of is, and it's supposed to make you think that way. But this version of the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come is probably my favorite version because it is the most terrifying version.
By doing nothing.
Making it just like a shadow on the wall.
Like you never see
is so scary and so atmospheric, especially that first time when it shows up.
The hint of something is scarier than the actual thing itself.
Yes.
Which is why monsters are always creeping around corners or in shadows, essentially. unlike the horror movies that we've seen, some really bad ones, where the creature's just there.
So let's just take a look at just a simple Google search of the Ghost of Christmas Future.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I love this one with the sunglasses.
I like
that's
the one
Scrooge.
with the.
That's Scrooge. That's John Forsythe and Scrooge.
Oh, right.
And then but that's actually that's Marley. That's not. Yeah, that's like basically the Marley character.
Oh, there's a cool stage version.
I think this one's
the Patrick Stewart one is so creepy. Because it's just those two like Tim Burton dot for eyes.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right, Thomas. It's always sort of
It's always a
sorry, what was that?
Yeah,
there's like a green
down,
and then
down.
in the middle
there,
right.
This
one superhero?
Yeah.
Sure.
Is that like a DeviantArt drawing or?
It looks like it.
Okay. Well, there you go.
All right.
What's the video game Ghost of Christmas?
Oh, there? No. You can Google it later. It's fine. It's fine. Game? No, but I mean, I guess at this point, let's go back to the beginning and talk about the Ghosts of Christmas Past. In this telling of it, usually it's a very kind spirit. It's usually a very kind, very soft, very innocent spirit, because it's like the innocence of youth sort of a thing. So it's usually very young. Yeah. It's usually I've seen it as usually female, but it's usually a very innocent character. But in this one, it was a little bit darker. I felt like, especially no.
I was going to agree with you. Yes, I don't remember the description in the book, but yes, traditionally in the various adaptations, we see it as this almost fairy-like character, or the generally female, or in this case, it was somewhat androgynous, but it's generally a youthful child in a robe, sometimes with wings, or sometimes with I think a candle flame for a head is the idea they went specifically with this version, which is why when he snuffs it out. Which I think the reason he snuffs it out is really because we get into our first 3D animation motion simulator part, but there is a certain like it's certainly not the scariest out of the three really, but there is a certain, I suppose, melancholic tone to it. There's not really. Well, there it is.
We get the motion simulator bit before, because all the flying sequences. I guess it's always been described in the book as being like,
I believe,
walk out this window with me, and it's like I believe, mortal.
And then
it's like by my hand you shall be able to.
And I think they literally just like fly over stuff. Yes. But yeah, you can if you go back up there for a second, Rob. You see this lady who looks like she's dressed like a nurse. So generally a kind and caring figure, but this one
is this one you're talking about? Where she looks like she's dressed like a nurse? Yeah.
The Good Witch.
It is generally a softer, kinder figure. But like you said, this version, they went spookier with it, which I think is probably closer in tone to what... the Muppet one is so scary.
Oh, no, I don't know. Yeah, unintentionally, for sure, because I think the Muppet one's very sweet, though. I mean...
dialogue speaking.
Is that Tilda Swinton?
It looks like one of the things from the Dark Crystal.
They were probably working on that.
But yes, I think, as Rob pointed out, they went spookier with this, and I think that's probably more aligned with the tone of the book. I think the book, generally speaking, is spookier, and even the more benevolent ghosts still give a certain sense of unsettling, I don't know what to call it, unsettling tone to the whole thing. Even if, because they're still ghosts, they may be ghosts that are trying to help Scrooge in the end, but they're still ghosts, and their purpose is to frighten him.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the second one then, the Ghost of Christmas Present. I feel like this showing of it is the same one I always see. It seems like it's always a larger redhead, like red beard, jolly guy, and so this one he seems a little bit more mocking than normal. And the laughing is like necessity to the character, I think, because there was always laughing. But in this telling, it almost seemed mocking laughter as he was doing it. And then there's a scene where like his robe comes open and you can see like his chest hair, and I'm like, animated Jim Carrey chest hair.
That's in every version, I feel like, as well, is the open vest and then just like
with the hairy chest.
Just like,
Do you think maybe it's in
hey!
the book? Do you think maybe Charles Dickens wrote, "I want a thick"? It was a thick ghost with red chest hair, and you start getting all sweaty, and you have to stop for a minute.
I'm assuming that there are illustrations in the original book. Maybe
I think that is just the way he is described, as a loud sort of red bearded man, and the interpretation has changed over the years, and you get the. You get the manly chest hair type stuff just from people being like, well, why not? Sure. He is. I believe he is meant to be a boisterous figure. I like what you said, Rob, where it feels the laughter is almost mocking, which would be very appropriate for Scrooge, because while everyone else is enjoying Christmas and laughing, all he hears are people being obnoxious and loud. So maybe to him, the laughter of he finds it obnoxious. So maybe, if this is his own spiritual journey, for lack of a better word, the laughter he hears is mocking to it, because he doesn't feel the same joy.
So, from an animation standpoint, though, or the storytelling anyway, in this version, they did something I don't remember them ever seeing before, where the floor becomes clear. And he's like hovering over it, but he's still in the same room, because in every telling I've ever seen, he's moving through time, he's moving through buildings, he's looking in shop windows. But in this one, he's in the same room the whole time with this spirit, correct? I mean, that's
motion simulator.
I am almost certain that is what happens in the book. I think in the book that he says something where it's like the whole room feels like it lifts off the ground and starts flying around, and he sees all the scenes through the floor of his apartment, which is a sort of visual metaphor for him being above everybody, exactly, and especially above his employees in terms of financial status. And I don't know if that's an accurate assessment, but I'm almost certain that was a thing in the books, where he sees the rest of the scenes of the present through the floorboard.
Yeah, well, I assume, again, it was probably done for the effect of the 3D, but it was very unique to me because I hadn't seen that before. The way that worked out was kind of cool. And then here's the other thing that I notice about this is in a lot of these tellings, he has the first ghost. He has Marley appear. Then he goes to bed and he's like, I'm just crazy. It was something. It was bad beef. I don't know. And then the first ghost appears, and then he's like, wait, what? This is real? And then he goes on this journey, he comes back, and then he's back in his chambers, and he's like, oh, it was silly, it probably wasn't real. And then a little bit later, the second ghost appears. In this one, it goes one to the next, and especially at the end of the present into the future, there's a scene where the present has died on the ground, and then the shadow just raises up in the same place where he is to become the future. So I think pacing wise, I mean, it's an hour 37 for this movie, and it's I think still longer.
Credits.
Well, I was gonna say. I remember
because I thought at the end of the movie, like, I was like, the reason they added these motion simulator segments is because the story doesn't last an hour and a half. And you gotta make a movie, but you can't just make an hour-long movie. You need to pad it out to at least 90 minutes. And I remember once the movie finished, I'm like, an hour 30 exactly. And like you just said about the pacing, I feel like with all the separation between the three ghosts, this movie was like, okay, I'm a modern filmmaker after the year 2000. The movie's got to be quick, or else people are going to fall asleep. We can't have a minute of silence. Then, the movie's only an hour, 10 minutes. Let's add 20 minutes worth of motion simulator segments, and then like a completely random segment where he shrinks and then gets chased by a ghost horse. The Headless Horseman. Let's add this because it's got to be an hour 30. It has to be 90 minutes.
Now, the Muppets that we talked about earlier is an hour and 29 minutes. So this is only like 8 minutes longer than that. And that one has those kind of moments where Michael Caine is sitting in his chambers and saying, this is, I'm just being crazy. This didn't really happen. So I definitely think it feels longer in some cases. with the with the way that it goes back and forth. So let me ask you something before we go on. And first of all, thank you for everybody who's watching. And if you haven't hit like, please hit like. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, it's brand new. We would all on this screen love for you to subscribe to this channel.
Yeah.
Yes. So one thing I would like to do real quick for you guys is I want to ask you to build your perfect foursome. Who's the best Scrooge of all the ones you know? Who's the best Ghost of Christmas Past, the present, and the future? So start with Scrooge. Who's the best? If you had to pick one Scrooge of all of them, who's the best one of the ones you've seen?
Well, Tom was in a play in high school.
Oh, you stopped.
So Tom is there. You go, instant winner. I mean, because for me, it's probably Michael Caine, and again, probably because I love the Muppet ones.
I agree. Michael Caine, I think, was the best.
I have yet to see it, but I think that I would put George C. Scott Scrooge. I think he does. Yeah.
That's quintessential. I mean, that is a quintessential telling of it, the George C. Scott one. So that's probably a good call.
I just know that George C. Scott is great at being an angry old man who is just upset at the whole world, and so I think he's the perfect Scrooge.
So we had a situation on Deep in the Plus during the marathon show where we got into a loop and we were talking about Prep and Landing and how the elves drug children and then drag them to their beds. and that specific moment with Patrick and I talking about that got looped somehow and just kept going and going. And so now somebody in the chat said something about it.
The same minute happened over and over again?
No, it was. It was like 10 seconds and it was looped. It was crazy. Anyway, just Penguin Project giving us a hard time about that in the chat. Anyway, so Ghost of Christmas, Ghost of Christmas Future. I mean, Past. Is there one that did you like this one? Do you like the Muppet version?
I was going to say I would probably give it to the Muppet version. This version is perfectly fine as far as spook factor goes, but I do think in order to ease us into this, you need a kinder, more beneficent spirit that seems to be a little. It kind of hints on the idea that these spirits are here to help Scrooge, not necessarily to harm him.
Yeah.
And in the end, of course, they're helping him in a broader context. So that's probably what I would go with. The flame-headed candle child is just a little too spooky for me.
Ghost of Christmas Future.
We skipped over present. I guess the present, but the present one's always the same, isn't it?
Well, in this one, I kind of like this one in this movie because I kind of remember him a little bit more. I don't know if you would pick that or not. Because
I would. I was going to say I don't remember any other versions except for the Muppet version. That's because he walks around the town and he has a terrible song that is.
I worked at Disney Store, and that song from Muppet Christmas Carol, where it's like, it feels like Christmas. First of all, Christmas working at the Disney Store when you might celebrate another holiday yourself is not good because all it is that Christmas music, and that Muppet song you hear like 12 times in a shift maybe because the video is only like a 30-minute, 40-minute loop. Next to Toyland, which I hate. But
the real meaning of Christmas, according to
honestly, this version I think is the most memorable. I think I've seen only maybe 3 versions of Christmas Carol, like Scrooged, and then Goes Wrong Show. That doesn't really count. I would love to just see somebody in a candle suit trying to like get through the window. That's hilarious. But the Muppet, I think the Muppet present one is pretty good. I think this movie one is also very good. But I think just the Shadow future one is the creepiest one from this movie.
I was going to say it's hard to pick a present, but the Ghost of Christmas Future is an easy pick for me. It would definitely be this Jim Carrey version.
Really?
Because as much as I love the hooded figure stalking through the darkness, my one issue with this version is that they get a little too actiony at the end.
Yeah,
I would have preferred a very quiet, somber, dark scene where Scrooge is like it's just almost silent as he walks through the graveyard and discovers his what do you call it?
That would be great.
His tomb.
But this is a modern film, and we need an Act 3 action scene.
We need to have swirling winds and crazy things happening all the time.
You can't have... People wearing 3D glasses aren't going to be intrigued by somebody slowly walking through a field. They need stuff flying at them and horse hooves and crazy motion simulator Ratatouille ride scenes where they're going down a pipe and stuff.
And that, but I think visually speaking, the way they made it just literally a shadow on the wall, I think that adds a great deal of depth, not only to the visuals you can have with that, and adds it makes it so much scarier, because the shadows playing tricks on us is like a thing we all experience, and so
that's a good point.
That image of a robed figure can be seen everywhere, and of course the idea that the future is a shadow that is being cast. It's not a thing that we can find, or the shadow
behind him.
Yeah. Sometimes
the way
it's behind
it's being cast is like it's standing right behind him, and he's just seeing the shadow.
And of course, there is
horrifying.
The implication that it is his death that is coming, and it is death is just a shadow, another metaphorical shadow that pursues us that we can't see.
Drew in chat says, like, this movie wasn't dark enough.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys are taking it to that next dark place.
So I would say the visuals of this Ghost of Future Past. That's
that X-Men movie.
That's that X-Men movie. Go X-Men Ghosts of Future Past. I would do this Spectre for the visuals, but I'd probably have the tone of more the Muppet one or the George C. Scott one or any of the other ones where they went nice and quiet with the Scrooge discovering his own that he's the miserable figure that everyone's making fun of type thing, because I think that should be a silent moment. I don't think you can throw a whole bunch of action on it and make it scarier. I think it's scarier when it's just grounded and solid and quiet. That's just me.
I agree with that. Only I have a hot take for who I think is the best ghost of Christmas Yet to Come. Pete. And Mickey's Christmas Carol.
I thought you meant Carney.
Oh,
Pete Carney.
No, it's not all about Pete Carney. No, it's about Pete plays the ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, and actually in that telling of it, the giant from Mickey and the Beanstalk plays the ghost of Christmas Present, and I think that's a good fit too. But they were just working just like
animation. Though?
Just like the Muppets are working with the characters they have to work with, so was Disney when they were making, Mickey's Christmas Carol. So I think Pete is great because it's very ironic in a way. Like, he's still a villain, but he's just like a doofy dude, at that point.
Yeah.
In that telling, and as opposed to being the scary specter that you've talked about, So I don't know. I just that's a telling I like, but I agree with you on the Muppet one too. The Muppet one is very, very edgy.
I was going to say I don't recall much of the animated Disney one with Mickey and Donald and all them. I don't recall it very much, but I do remember that Pete doesn't say anything, but it's Pete because you see the cigar sticking out of the
he's half in shadow.
And then the only time he speaks is when he blows the smoke and knocks Scrooge McDuck into the. He knocks Scrooge McDuck into the grave, and he says something, I don't remember what it is. It's like, "That's your problem, fella," or something like that.
I almost said, "Is Scrooge McDuck?" His name is Scrooge, so I'm an idiot.
But what I was going to say was there's a sequence that usually gets cut, and I don't remember if it's in the books or not. But there certain versions have the sequence in which he sort of gets up from his coffin and he realizes that he's in hell. This is like I said. There are different versions. I think the George C. Scott one does it. I just very specifically remember Scrooge. He's in this coffin and he tries to touch the sides of it, but it's too hot and he quickly turns his hands away. And then he realizes he's in hell and all these demons start wrapping chains around him and getting him ready to suffer earthly torment for eternity. And then he wakes up and he's just tangled in the sheets and accidentally burned his hand on the candle or something. But that's a sequence we don't see much of. But I'm pretty sure that was in the animated one, the Disney one. We get some demonic stuff or some hell stuff, I guess. But I don't remember. And Pete, what I was saying is Pete's an appropriate character in that regard, where he kind of he does double duty as Death and the Devil.
Double duty as Death and the Devil. Darn. So one thing that somebody said in the chat too was that we should make a Christmas Carol of WDWNT staff members playing the roles.
Ghost of Christmas Past, Fig. Ghost of Christmas Present, Pete. Ghost of Christmas Future.
Jacob Marley is definitely Skip Lewis.
Oh my god, yeah. Are we doing characters?
Yeah.
I'm the Ghost of Christmas Future.
Anyway, I feel like they did some kind of a puppet sketch with that, with Chapek being the Scrooge character, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I think
we did that last year.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening this year.
Yeah. So one thing else I want to talk about, and then I want to talk about the cast real quick, is that when you see the Cratchit family and Bob gets home and they're very jovial, and Tiny Tim's there and the whole deal. There's a character, I think the name is Martha, and she's hiding in the cupboard. And they're like, oh, she's not coming, and he's like, oh, it's not gonna be Christmas without her. And she jumps out, and she's like a giant. She's like a foot taller than Bob Cratchit in this thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, first of all, A, she's hiding in the cupboard. And then B, like, it's just weird. You've got the tiniest little guy with Tiny Tim, and then you've got Martha. That may not be her name, but I feel like it was her name.
Huge Martha.
Just like towering over
Martha.
Bob Cratchit. It was just very strange. So, from a cast standpoint, Jim Carrey... What's that?
I genuinely don't remember that bit. I just watched this movie.
I know.
And I don't remember that bit happening in it.
We got to go back and watch it again.
I'm almost certain there is a female Cratchit child who is less... Often they are cut or forgotten about because they are not as...
prominent in the story.
And they don't die like Tiny Tim does.
And in the Muppet movie, they're all mini versions of Miss Piggy. So
yes.
Oh yeah.
So as far as cast goes, so Jim Carrey plays all three spirits and any version of Scrooge in it, young, old. Colin Firth plays Fred.
Yes.
Bob Hoskins plays Fezziwig, and there's some scenes with
we
the
didn't
Fezziwig
talk
thing.
about that.
Yeah,
the whole Fezziwig scene
is weird, right?
Is so weird and out of place.
It's weird because, like you said, it's that cognitive dissonance of the realistic characters. Cognitive dissonance is the feeling you get when holding two opposing ideas simultaneously.
Yes,
you can't quite put a name on it, but it's got these realistic characters with the realistic faces and the fairly realistic dance stuff at first, and then
the first thing he does is front flip over a table or something.
That's the thing.
While hanging in the air like he's on wires. And
yeah.
Well, they probably did that. I would love to see footage of motion captured
Bob Hoskins on wires
flipping
spinning
through the air.
That would be
because
great.
I don't think that he did that, but I would love to see if that happened.
But it is that it's one of the few parts where it's this feels very weird, and I think it's just meant to be
it's like the song in Polar Express. They're they drink hot chocolate, hot chocolate, and then they're dancing. You're what is happening? Is this a musical? Because this whole sequence,
it feels like it should be in a musical.
Hey
sequence.
Boys, it's me, Fezziwig. You guys want to dance? And they're woo! And they're sliding on the ground, and
his
then this
wife
dance
levitates for a little while.
She
his wife spins so hard she levitates.
Like Tisha Adams in the air, and you're what is happening?
And maybe it's just meant to be Scrooge is those times are so far behind him that they seem like fantasy or something like that.
Yes,
but that's me making.
But
that makes that's a weak justification for this. They could have just danced normally, and then Fezziwig's just an energetic guy. But to show that, they have him do backflips and
3D.
Cartwheels. And I guess that's the benefit of 3D is that you can really push the the visuals. But this movie, that's this movie's problem.
But if you wanted it to be a grounded story, why did you?
That's what I'm saying.
So in chat, Arlo was talking about Polar Express is such a hot mess. Yeah, it kind of is. But here's the difference: is Polar Express was a book that was a children's picture book that was like stretched, like the Jim Carrey Grinch movie, stretched into an hour and a half movie. Whereas this is a long book that's almost kind of like encapsulated into 90 minutes. So, I mean, I think that they had to add those weird, wacky scenes into Polar Express so that it could tell the whole story and be a full-length movie. Whereas in this one, it didn't seem like you needed to stop for like a show-stopping dance number, right? I mean, it didn't seem to fit into it.
Simulator sequence. Yeah.
No one's gonna watch a 2-hour movie of Christmas Carol, but people will watch a passable 90-minute version that has all these wacky things in it with just like the minimal things they remember, because like there are movies or like Romeo and Juliet. Like people have made Romeo and Juliet, like Baz Luhrmann, he cut out
the best version.
He did like almost everything, but then when you're watching like a high school production where it's actually the
actual text,
the actual text.
Oh, it's a nightmare.
Like, God, this is so long.
Yeah.
Is this how long this was?
We never remember. One of the most important things you can do when you stage a production of Shakespeare is cuts.
Yes.
Is deciding what scenes are essential and what scenes. I mean, to be fair, as far as the text goes, every scene is essential. But we're not academics who are here to study the text. We are artists and performers who want to put this on as a show.
Yes.
And so in the same way, with the Christmas Carol, you have to figure out, well, what is actually important to the transformation of Scrooge? And it's, of course, the three spirits and his relationship with Bob Cratchit and his family.
What about the one lady who spurned him?
I guess that's part of his backstory. I wouldn't say that's necessarily an essential part of the sequence of events.
The Christmas Carol one. The Muppet one had a whole song between those two characters that they got cut. It was on the VHS copy, and I think people have edited it back together and put it on YouTube, and they're like, this is the perfect version of the Muppet movie.
I don't know how prominent Scrooge's love interest is in the books. I don't know if the whole past chapter is devoted to that, or if she's I know she has a name, probably. I think it's Mary or something. And I think
it's actually Belle.
There you go.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I do.
He fell in love with a young woman named Belle and proposed marriage.
You see, you can have her appear, but never name her as a character or give her any lines, because while she's important to the whole idea that Scrooge is alone, she's not essential to his transformation. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing you can cut down or cut out, and it's all about how you want to tell the story. I don't know what the point we were trying to reach here was, but
I don't remember either. Oh, it was that people adapting the actual text compared to like making a wacky 3D adventure.
And I understand why they have wacky 3D adventure stuff in there, because they need to have something to keep the attention of one, children, because a family picture, and I mean the scary stuff I think would be enough, and two, this is not the Victorian times anymore. The long stretches of character drama are not going to retain the attention of people as they once did, unless they are executed, especially for an ostensibly a family story. I don't remember what the point I was trying to get to. I think that was the point. We're not in the Victorian times anymore, and I understand why they made those changes, but I think it is to the film's detriment. I think that
You were talking about this scene from the deleted scene from the Muppet movie with her in this like long drawn out, like in the woods scene.
Because arguably this is where like
this is the turning point.
This is the turning point for Scrooge in this version.
Yes.
And they had this major moment between these two characters.
This coat he's wearing is almost the exact coat I wore in high school, except mine was green. I only had one frill.
Because this is the thing that made him such like a grouchy
person. This is the moment where he has this is the first time we see, as a kid, we see depending on the version, but generally as a kid we see Scrooge with all of his schoolmates, and he's more concerned with studying, and I think they say that he's alone for the holidays or something, like his parents never picked him up or something, or he doesn't have parents or something like that. He's come from the school of hard knocks is the important thing, but.
Wait, hold on a second, though. That's interesting, because in this telling of it, you meet his sister, and she comes in, because Fred is his nephew, and I don't know that in any other story I really got the connection of how he's related, other than it's his nephew, but how, is it his brother's kid? And in this one, he has a little sister who comes in to the school and saves him and takes him away and says, I talked to Father. Yes. He's not as horrible as he used to be. Yeah. And he's going to let me take you home for Christmas. And which
is a good touch.
Right, exactly. So it's almost this moment of hope along the way for him, and that turns him around, because the next scene is the Fezziwig scene. So he's a very sad kid that kind of in any superhero villain origin would have been the beginning of his origin story, that he gets left behind at school and nobody comes and picks him up, and he just gets angry and bitter and turns into a supervillain. But in this one, this is a turning point where he comes back around and he's happy and fun-loving, and he goes to Fezziwig's and he meets Belle, and everything's good. And then at some point he becomes a money-hungry miser, as you said, Thomas, in being a miser, and it becomes more important to him than Belle to be rich rather than to be in love.
I think it's explored in the terms of the pressure of him wanting to make sure that he has the perfect life and the perfect family or something like that. The pressure of him marrying this woman now makes him want to do nothing but accrue wealth. And then there is that moment where he has that is the moment he changes. The moment he rejects Belle.
Yes.
Yeah. The moment he rejects Belle and chooses money over her is the moment he becomes the Scrooge we know in present day. That's the moment where he chose financial security effectively over happiness.
Yeah.
And I maybe not financial security, but at least he chose money over love.
But in the same vein of Star Wars, as Anakin has gone down this road and he is seemingly beyond redemption, which actually, he is seemingly beyond redemption, right? He's a horrible human being. People make jokes about him. He's going to die a lonely death. He's only about money, and there's nobody to give it to, and he hates the poor and all these other things. And so it's the same thing where he's just dark, and there is enough of a change and a swing in the redemption in that arc through this movie that he comes back around and he has been saved. And like we talked about from the beginning, it is really a redemption movie to me more than it is a Christmas movie.
Yeah, and I think that's the important takeaway from it. It's not, as we said at the beginning, it's not the corporate idea of Christmas changing people for the good. It's about being responsible for your own actions and recognizing your place within a larger society or a larger whole, and I guess not just realizing your responsibility as, I guess he's part of the upper class, but not only as part of the upper class, but as just a fellow man. Scrooge didn't treat anyone like his equal. He treated everyone like they're beneath him, and thusly sort of viewed the human race as this plague, I suppose.
Tyler, you look perplexed. Are you perplexed?
I'm just reading through the chat.
Okay.
Well, we started talking about Star Wars, and I guess I was like, Star Wars is like Christmas Carol?
It is kind of, yeah. Well, you have Darth Vader. It's over a much longer period. You have Anakin Skywalker, who starts off as a young, hopeful Jedi, and then not through the same circumstances as Scrooge, through a series of prophetic visions of his wife dying in childbirth, he becomes a Dark Lord of the Sith, and then he spends most of his life as a Dark Lord of the Sith, inflicting misery and suffering upon the galaxy. And then towards the very end of his life, he sees hope.
3 ghosts.
He sees two ghosts.
It's Yoda. I'm.
Well, no, I mean, if you think about it, at the very end of Jedi, you do see 3 ghosts. I mean,
that's true.
Yeah,
so, the ghost of Obi-Wan.
The ghost
past,
of Star Wars past.
The ghost of Star Wars present.
And then Hayden Christensen.
Boo. All right, so...
Yeah, but we have that same redemptive arc, I guess.
So let me ask you guys, is there anything else you want to talk about in this movie? Because we're running over, but it's been a lot of fun, so I want to make sure. Is there anything else you can think of before I ask you for your final thought on this movie? Is there anything else that you can think of you wanted to talk about? Any weird little animation thing or anything as far as the 3D or the rendering or the mocap or any of that crazy stuff happen, or the story itself? Anything else?
I just would have loved to have seen the live action version of this. I know you can go on YouTube and watch like the almost the entire opening that was just filmed with mocap with all the proper voices they recorded for it. I would just love to see Jim Carrey live action in that version of it. Like the rest of the cast, I think is fantastic. And unfortunately, Bob Hoskins can't do it now, but like...
Rest in peace. Now he's the ghost of Christmas present.
Oh, no, too soon.
I just would have loved to have seen, because the embodiment that Jim Carrey has in that motion capture is fantastic. I would love to see that version, but also he kind of looks like Count Olaf when he's in his Scrooge outfit.
I was going to say, I think I agree with you on that point that Jim Carrey is an excellent choice for Scrooge. I don't want to. He's definitely not the best Scrooge. I think there are people who have captured the character better than him. Michael Caine is an excellent example of that. But yeah, there he goes. But I think Scrooge is that kind of larger than life character that is very appropriate for Jim Carrey, and I think it's a nice change of roles for him. I would have also loved to see a live action version of this with all the little facial details and things like that. And here's the other thing: I don't think we ever get close-ups like that in this animated version. I think it's always like just slightly farther back, so that way we don't have to. Look at it.
Yeah, I mean, this is just I thought that guy looked very weird and creepy in the actual movie, but he kind of looks very weird and creepy in this version too.
And this is also the opening where he takes the coins off of Marley's eyes so that because he's like tuppence. I think that's and
then
I think that's a lovely touch. Yeah.
I love that it says Scrooge on him, so people know. Hey, yep, that's Scrooge. There he is.
Because they all look identical.
I was going to say in the mocap suits. I'm sure that's actually quite important.
Coming up, you just see it says like Boy 1, Boy 2, or something like that.
Yeah. Man 4
on the
singing. Man 4. There is Man 3.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
I like I said, I think the animation it gave them a lot of opportunities to have some exquisite visuals in the thing, and I think the creepy effects with the realistic faces, I think those work in favor of the ghosts, not so much for the happy fun scenes. It is particularly, I don't know what it is when computer animation does the trying to do realistic facial animations. Happiness always looks so scary because it just looks like these big like gnashing teeth in this, I don't know, this like plasticine 3D face.
Oh yeah.
That's the only other thing I have to say. But I think, well, Rob, you can transition us into our final.
Well, I appreciate it, Thomas. Thank you. So, really, to me, this is, this is. I mean, it was a very, for me, a big anticipated movie because I saw that they kind of gave a tease of it at D23 back in the day. It came out in 2009, I believe, which was right around the very first D23. I thought this movie was going to be huge. I thought it was going to be a runaway blockbuster, and it really wasn't. It was really kind of a disappointment for Disney. I do think that Jim Carrey did a good job in it, but the important question for you guys today is, and you can do this separately, so maybe you guys have a difference of opinion, is would you recommend this movie?
Yeah, I love how quickly the camera jumped to us. It's like, no time to think. I would I would say go watch like this and then go watch Muppet Christmas Carol, just so you can be like horrified, and then you have some lighthearted goodness after that, just to wash the taste of your mouth, wash the taste out of your mouth.
Okay.
I would recommend this to people who are familiar with A Christmas Carol. I think that there are more solid versions of it, but I think this one, as we stated very close to the beginning, it captures the tone and the finer details of the book a little better than many other versions. It's by no means the best version, but it is one that I genuinely love and enjoy. So I guess that's my final thought. So yes, I wholeheartedly recommend this version.
So I was also going to say, if you can, go also seek out Christmas Carol Goes Wrong, because it's one of the funniest things I've ever watched in my life.
You always got to plug them.
I always got to plug them, because not enough people know about the Goes Wrong show.
J.J. Abrams knows about them, so they're good. They're solid.
Yeah.
He's going to make 7 bad robot movies about them.
It's just some example of you can take
Cloverfield Goes Wrong.
You could take this text, this like classic thing, like, because they did the same thing with Peter Pan. They're like, can you take this classic piece of literature and find a way to turn it into a comedy? And they do, because even the Goes Wrong stuff for Christmas Carol, the text is the same as the Jim Carrey one. Like, all the segments and the sequences are almost identical, and the dialogue is almost the same. It's just the context is a little bit different. Like, the guy playing Ghost of Christmas Present just found out his girlfriend might be breaking up with him. So instead of being like, ah, he's like, ho, 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 and he's like weeping while he's trying to get through the lines. Like, it's just the
Goes Wrong show, now available on Disney Plus.
No,
that was a joke, Tyler, man, because you went on a rambling thing about it.
I'm just recommending. Anyways,
so Lauren in chat says I would recommend this movie. Archfox says one of the better versions. So I mean, for me, I never read the book. Or the story. I'm not a huge reader. I love movies, and so I like to be entertained. For that reason, and I think we talked about it earlier, I think Muppet Christmas Carol, which again we've reviewed on Deep in the Plus if you want to go back and look for it. That movie is to me like the fun version of this, and then I think Scrooged is a funny version of this, and then this one actually, even though the motion capture thing, it seems very disturbing to me at times. There's especially a scene with the guy when it's the Ghost of Christmas Future, and they're looking at Scrooge's drapes, and the guy kind of gets a look at a rat, and he goes to kill it. The guy's face is kind of frozen for a while, and I agree with you, Tyler. Like, sometimes when you look happy, I don't know if it was you or Thomas. I apologize, but it was like if you look happy, it a lot of times looks creepier.
They got the big gnashing teeth.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, to me, this would be up there. And I would definitely recommend it if you haven't seen it. And I think a lot of people missed it first time around, and it's on Disney Plus now, and it's here for you to watch. But I would recommend it, but it's not my favorite telling of this story. And Jim Carrey does an amazing job with it.
I want to mention one more thing, which I found is quite fun. Yeah. Is when Jacob Marley's jaw breaks open and he has to flap it himself. I think that's a lot of fun.
That was a weird bit.
But that's so dark. I mean, that's one of that's disturbing. I also want to mention that on Carousel Products, we have these stickers. There's a Deep in the Plus sticker right there from Deep in the Plus. But there's also one that we have. This is a little.
Ooh! Wow!
Ride Rehab stickers. You got Ride Rehab stickers, guys. And oh wait, what's this?
Oh my goodness!
Hey, didn't that just end?
Yeah. So these Tyler, are these like collector's items now?
Yes, they're
that's right.
They're literally
collector sticker items. Just wait 20 years; they'll be worth something.
Yeah. So if you guys want to go get your Ride Rehab sticker, go to carouselproducts.com. We got a lot of fun stuff on there. Yeah, exactly. So thank you guys so much for doing this show with me. I mean, for those of you who are watching, thank you guys for watching. Thanks for sticking with us. But for those of you who are watching, I want you to know that I literally asked them to do this yesterday. So thank you guys for doing that. I appreciate it. You guys are a lot of fun. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
I don't think it would be appropriate for me to plug my show on this. So,
no.
We'll move on.
Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Okay, so and thank you guys who are watching, who are wigs. Thank you guys for everybody who donated to the Cast Pantry too. We raised over almost $50,000 for the Cast Pantry, which is amazing.
Bless you.
And Tyler, the RPG is available to watch the final episode?
You can. It's like grouped in with like a bunch of other stuff, but we just had the finale of the RPG, which is fantastic, and it went amazingly. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. And then if you subscribe to the podcast feed, the actual show will be up there shortly, plus like our little Q&A thing that happened afterwards. Plus I released the trailer for season 2, which is called Tokyo Rift. Ooh. So that'll probably happen next summer, 2021. And if you want to send me questions, I won't answer any of them. That's all.
Aw, that's mean.
No, because people are going to be like, what's going to happen? What's the story going to be? Is this going to be in it? And I'll be like, I don't know.
I'm figuring it out. I'm still writing.
All right, guys.
No spoilers.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks for liking and subscribing.
Thanks for having us.
We appreciate it. We got more Christmas stuff coming in the next couple weeks on Deep in the Plus, so thank you guys, and we will see you next week. Bye.